Lights, camera, dissect. Welcome back to Midnight Reel Reviews. This is one of the greatest films of 2023, Oppenheimer. The movie is based on the biography of Oppenheimer, which won the Pulitzer Prize for Literature in 2006. Since its global release this year, the film has grossed over $700 million. Many people might not know, but Oppenheimer has not been released in Japan. The reason is the complex emotions the Japanese have towards Oppenheimer and the atomic bomb he developed. Oppenheimer was born into a wealthy Jewish family in New York and had a special interest in mathematics and languages from a young age, learning 6 languages. At this point, Oppenheimer was under investigation by the Security Committee, as U.S. authorities suspected he was a Soviet spy. At night, he couldn't sleep, often haunted by his hidden physics fantasies, and made frequent mistakes in experiments, which led to his growing dislike for lab work. During this time, he met someone who would change his life, Niels Bohr. Bohr's influence led Oppenheimer to shift to theoretical physics, freeing him from the experimental work he hated. In the museum, he studied Van Gogh's paintings, pondering the mysteries of physics. Meanwhile, in Wyoming, the Senate was investigating Oppenheimer's colleagues at the Atomic Energy Commission. They had given him one of the country's most prestigious positions. Albert Einstein had published his theory of relativity more than 40 years ago, a breakthrough in physics. But Oppenheimer was under suspicion for connections with Soviet spies and constantly questioned by the Security Committee. On a train, Oppenheimer met Rabin, who was puzzled by how Oppenheimer learned Dutch in just 6 weeks. When Oppenheimer first taught a class, only one student showed up. At a dinner that evening, Oppenheimer met his girlfriend, and they instantly fell in love. Oppenheimer didn't just speak Dutch, he also taught himself French. But Oppenheimer didn't win his girlfriend's approval. In 1939, World War II broke out, and German scientists Hahn and Strassmann discovered nuclear fission. They found that when neutrons hit uranium nuclei, unexpected chemical reactions occurred. Neutrons hitting uranium would split the atom into 2 smaller nuclei, releasing huge amounts of energy. Oppenheimer thought this was impossible. After the war started, the UK and US learned that Germany was researching nuclear weapons. If Germany succeeded first, it would be disastrous. Oppenheimer met his wife, and they fell in love. Her first husband died young, and her second husband was killed in a Spanish trench. In 1942, the U.S. launched the Manhattan Project, aiming to develop the atomic bomb before the Germans. Oppenheimer was chosen to lead the project. After the Manhattan Project began, Oppenheimer gathered the top scientists. Just as the nation's scientists were about to begin working on the atomic bomb, one of the scientists worried that the bomb might ignite the atmosphere, destroying the entire planet. The U.S. Army set up a special team to conduct the bomb's tests at a remote site. Many scientists didn't want to leave their comfortable offices. Why should we move our families for an impossible task? Oppenheimer responded, "We need to beat the Nazis to it." The research team assembled, but one scientist, Taylor, wanted to develop a more powerful hydrogen bomb, which Oppenheimer rejected, fearing it was too powerful and beyond their control. Oppenheimer moved his wife and children to the test site, but his wife complained about the lack of a spacious kitchen. In 1917, a cargo ship carrying munitions exploded in port, marking the largest man-made explosion in history. In an abandoned football field underground, the research team set up a small nuclear test site. They calculated the bomb's potential impact. While the U.S. developed the bomb, the Soviets were also working on their own. They suspected there were spies among them. One scientist, Klaus Fuchs, was under investigation. Oppenheimer was also on the list of suspects. Oppenheimer believed that people should not be enemies because of their beliefs. During questioning, he admitted to secretly meeting his ex-girlfriend because he felt he needed to see her. When his wife found out, she imagined him meeting his ex in front of her, filled with helplessness. At a New Year's dinner, his mentor visited the team and Oppenheimer was thrilled. But he later learned that his ex had taken her own life in the bathtub, leaving him overwhelmed with guilt. As time grew tight, the team began to argue. Oppenheimer was overwhelmed, and many scientists left. Before the Potsdam Conference, the test was successful. In 1945, with Germany's surrender in Tutu, some scientists questioned the necessity of the project. But with the war still ongoing, the U.S. decided to continue the Manhattan Project and prepare for the Trinity test. President Truman decided to drop atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The research team raced against time. On the day of the test, Oppenheimer told his wife, "If the test is successful, I'll send a signal, fold the sheets." She silently nodded. Oppenheimer approached the bomb. On the night of the test, Oppenheimer estimated the bomb's power at 3,000 tons of TNT. The weather didn't cooperate, and the experiment failed. Oppenheimer decided to go ahead with the test anyway. The team checked every device carefully. The signal was fired, and the test was set to begin. The team put on protective glasses. As the shockwave hit, everyone lay on the ground. The sky lit up, and the test was a success. It was the first time humanity detonated a weapon of such enormous power. After the test, the bomb was taken by the military. After Japan's surrender, Oppenheimer was hailed as the father of the atomic bomb, but he felt his hands were stained. President Truman found Oppenheimer's feelings weak and saw them as an impediment to further work on the atomic program. Your VIP seat awaits. Subscribe now, and let's relive every movie moment together.